Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar for the one-year Dutch program organized by Linguapolis at the University of Antwerp. We still have a few more people who are joining us as we speak, but we won't wait for them too long. So we'll just get started nice and easy. Okay, let me start by introducing myself. So my name is Andy Vermeulen. I'm mainly responsible for the administration regarding the one-year program. I'll also be the one who'll be answering most of your mails. So you'll be speaking with me quite often. With me is Ms. Sabine Steemans, who is the coordinator for Dutch and also the coordinator for the Dutch language year. All right. Before we get started with the actual webinar, let me go over a few points of interest, points of attention. So first of all, I'd like to ask you to keep your camera on for a better interaction. When we talk to people, it's always nice when we can see them. Also, mute your microphone when you're not talking. If you have questions, ask them at the end of the webinar via the chat. And finally, we'd also like to mention that the webinar is being recorded. Right, with that being said, I'll first give the floor to Ms. Steemans so she can explain a bit more about what the one-year program entails.
Okay, thank you, Andy. So I'm Sabine Steemans, the coordinator of the Dutch courses at Linguapolis and also responsible for the prep year, as Andy already mentioned. As far as the recording is concerned, we will record this session, but of course we will not disseminate recordings of your questions. We will only use the recordings of what we have been presenting. Yeah, so don't be afraid. Yeah. So you see the topics of this webinar here on the slide. So I will deal with your reasons. Why would anyone choose to follow the prep year? What is the contents of the prep year? And I will give a little bit of information about our approach. It would take me too long to discuss that in length. And then I will give the floor back to Andy for the application procedure. Okay, we can go on to the next slide, Andy. We will start with a sample of our of our communicative approach. We will start with a poll. So the question is, do you know someone who has already followed the Dutch prep year? So all of you joining us now can answer that question. We notice that a lot of people already know students from previous years. Yeah.
Greetings. I'm Moshim Gayumblon Patricia.
Okay, but I want to mention that you have to answer the poll. Yeah, it's not the idea that everybody joins us or everybody gives an explanation about it. We just want to see the results of the poll. Maybe, Marlies, you can close the poll and we can see what the results are. Oh. So, okay, yeah. So 25% of you, including the lady who was just talking to me, already know people who have followed the prep year. So that's fine. Maybe a next question for the poll. And also maybe we can go to the Nick, well, it's also mentioned on the slide that Andy is presenting. That's for the people who want to join the program. Maybe some of you are contact persons for other people or for future students, but do you already know a word in Dutch? Yeah, Marlies will launch a poll about that as well. We really think that people who want to join the program should start acquiring the language also when they are still abroad or when they still have not entered the program yet, because 1 year is a very short period to start from scratch and to reach the level that you need in order to study. Marlies, maybe I do not have a look of the poll right now. Just let me have a look. Okay. So we see goedemorgen here. Also 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's also very important that you can already count. Yeah. Okay. I guess we can go on to the next question, to the next poll, the last one. That's maybe is something that everybody can answer. Yeah, everybody is interested in studying in Belgium, in Antwerp. Can you name things that our country, Belgium, is known for? Yeah. Things that you associate with Belgium. So we're curious to see what associations or what things you know about Belgium. Football, yes. Well, the Red Devils unfortunately did not get as far as we hoped they would in Qatar, but indeed, we have a lot of famous football players. Chocolate, yeah. When you get to Antwerp, you will be able to visit the Chocolate Museum and buy loads of chocolates. Beer, yeah. We have like 700 different kinds of beer. Cycling, yeah. And a formula, okay. That's a bit of an enigmatic word to associate with Belgium, but anyway, yeah. But football is the big winner, yeah. It's I guess several people mentioned that word. Okay, we can go on, yeah. Maybe we can close the poll and go on with the next slide. So why would anybody choose to take part in the Dutch prep year? So when you enter the prep year, you become a full-time student at the University of Antwerp, and you will be in a program of, and in a group of which all people want to study in Dutch in the future. So you will be in a group with other students who have the same aim. Yeah? When you take part in other courses that we organize, people have different aims, different purposes why they study Dutch. In the prep year, everybody has the same aim of wanting to study in Antwerp or in Flanders or in the Netherlands maybe in the future. Of course, you will learn Dutch quickly and intensively. That's the case for all our courses. But for the prep year, we only take senior teachers. So you will not get beginners teachers, you will get senior teachers who have a lot of experience in teaching the language in the prep year in this very intensive way. And that's something maybe you might not have thought about, but when we meet people, previous students from past editions, again on campus, they all tell us, well, it was a very special year. It was a very intensive year, not only intensive in a way or in the idea of language studying, but also in an emotional way. It's for a lot of people, it's the first time that they are away from home. And also the people you meet then when you arrive here on your own in Antwerp, these are friends for life, people that support you in the next years as well, and people with whom you can have a lot of fun because you're all together with this very challenging aim of acquiring a lot of language in a very short period of time. And you will not only meet or be together with these people in class, but also during a lot of cultural and social activities. Okay, next slide. This brings us to the contents of the program. So it's full-time intensive program, and that's why it also entitles you to a student visa. Some people think when they read that you have only 15 hours of class, that it's not full-time. Believe me, it is a full-time program. You have 15 hours of class, but we give you a lot of homework, and we expect you to acquire the language outside the classroom as well. So it really is intensive and full-time. Contrary to other prep years, we offer different subjects. It's not just language acquisition, but we have other subjects as well. For example, academic study skills, which prepares you to study at an institute of higher education. We also devote a separate subject to the pronunciation of Dutch. And one of our dearest subjects is the culture of the Low Countries, which consists of both lectures and a lot of cultural activities. Yeah, so it's not language in isolation, but it's language acquisition with a lot of other subjects as well. Another very important part of the prep year is taalmaat. Taalmaat means language buddy, language mate. Yeah, it means that we have this project with Belgian, Flemish, Dutch-speaking students of the University of Antwerp that mingle with our prep year students. They organize activities for them in group or one-on-one, and they not only help you to practice the language if you do not have any people that you can practice Dutch with, but also help you to get to know higher institute life or college life in Belgium. Yeah, it might be different from the way it is organized in your country. So they can take you to lectures, but they can also take you to parties, whatever. So that's also a very important part of the prep year. And then, yeah, the proven approach. We really believe in an interactive, communicative approach. That's why we started with this poll. We have a video on our website that shows the way we teach. I'm not going to play that video. That would take too much time. But you get this, this presentation and you can click on the button and then you will see how we teach the language. As I said, we have only qualified and experienced language teachers teaching in the prep year program. And apart from the classes on campus, we also offer a lot of information on our digital platform, a lot of extra exercises, links to interesting websites, communication with the teachers and other students. So we do not only teach on paper and on campus, but also in a digital way. And then I give the floor back to Andy to give you information about the language, about the admission requirements.
All right. So let's start with the qualifications that are needed in order to continue studying at Linguapolis for the prep year. So first of all, you need to have your secondary school qualifications, which means you need to have finished your secondary school, secondary education, and your degree, your diploma needs to give access to higher education. So for example, if in your country a national exam is needed, then you also need to do that exam before you can apply to the one-year program. Then as for other requirements, you need to have an intermediate level of English. That means that you need to have at least a level B1 in English. Apart from that, if you are a native speaker of English or the language of instruction at your secondary school, only talking about secondary schools, was English, then you also need to provide proof that you've studied a different European language as a foreign language. For example, some countries, they have two national languages. If they have French and English as a national language, then you need a different language added to your application. Right. Now let's have a look at the entire application procedure. It's quite extensive, quite complicated. So I hope I can explain everything correctly. Well, correctly is not an issue, but adequately. So in order to apply, you need to submit an application. Now, if you go to our websites, I'll show you that as well. You'll notice that there are a few choices you need to make. So a first choice you need to make is, do I need a student visa or don't I need one? Also for students or people who already have a different type of visa, that means you need to click the first one. If you don't need a student visa, it's the first application form, and that's one for just the one-year program. If you do need a student visa, then basically you need two registrations in order to be able to get your student visa. Because for a one-year program on its own, a language program, you cannot get a student visa. You need to be able to prove that you are going to continue your studies in that target language. And for those students, we have a few different application forms. So if you want to continue at the University of Antwerp for a bachelor or a master program, you follow this link. If you want to continue at Artesisch Plantijn University College, you follow this link. And if it's for KDG or Karel de Grote University College, you have to follow this link. We have a working relationship with all three of these institutions. So if you submit an application, it will be a combined application. An application for University of Antwerp, AP University College, KDG, along with the one-year Dutch program. If you want to study somewhere else, that's also a possibility. Then you need to submit an application just for Linguapolis, but then you need to remember that you also need to submit an application for academic year 2024-2025 at a different institution in Flanders for a program taught in Dutch. Otherwise, you will not be granted a student visa. Okay, let's continue. So, once you've submitted your application, make sure to follow all the steps. First step will be that you fill out your master data, that you create a profile, and then you'll receive a confirmation by email with some links that you have to follow, that you have to click through. If you don't do that, your application stops there and we don't get it, we don't receive it. So make sure to check your email regularly when you submit an application. Once your profile has been created and you've confirmed your application, you'll start uploading your documents. These documents are an ID or a passport, your high school, secondary education degrees, along with the transcript of records, so a list of your results. If those documents are in a language other than English, French, German, or Dutch, you'll also need to upload a translation into one of those four languages, which doesn't matter, but it needs to be one of those four languages. And finally, if it isn't mentioned in your transcript of records, we also need proof of your proficiency in English, or at least that you've studied English or a different language as a foreign language. Then, once you've submitted all of your documents and hit the confirm button in the application form, you'll be asked to pay the advance fee. And that's an advance fee of 2,000 euros. And depending on whether or not you need a student visa, there are different deadlines. So for students who need a student visa, this needs to be paid before the 15th of April. And for students who don't need a student visa, this needs to be paid before the end of August. The reason why the deadline for students in need of a student visa is April is because basically the procedure for getting a student visa is quite extensive. It can take a lot of time. So if you wait until the end of August, you won't be able to get your visa anyway. So that's why we put it in April. We won't do anything with your application until the advance fee has been paid. Okay, then once we've received your advance payments, you'll be invited for a Skype interview, which is a video chat in which we will test a few things. We will first test your level of English. by having a short conversation and asking you some questions. We will also ask you what you know about the one-year Dutch program. For this, we will ask you first to prepare. We'll send you a link to our study guide, which you need to prepare before the interview. And finally, we'll also ask you a few questions regarding your motivation. Then, if you successfully pass the interview, we move on to the next part, and that's to provide your legalized documents. Now, depending on the country you hail from, there are different ways of legalizing. For some countries, an apostille will suffice. And for example, Morocco, they only need an apostille. But for other countries, they will need to be legalized by official instances, and all documents need to be extensively legalized. Again, if your documents were in a different language, the documents first need to be translated into English, French, German, or Dutch, and that translation needs to be legalized. You have to send these in to us. Depending on which application form you used, you'll get a different address. But these need to be sent in by post. And again, 2 different deadlines. For students who need a student visa, it's the end of May. And for students who don't need a student visa, it's the 7th of September. Then, once we've received everything and everything checks out, we will generate a letter of acceptance. If it's just for the one-year program, it's just our letter of acceptance. If you have a second application with the University of Antwerp, KDG, or AP, you'll also get their letter of acceptance, which is provisional, providing that you, of course, pass the one-year program. And this is also a document you need in order to apply for your visa. Otherwise, they won't validate it, they won't accept it. And that brings us to the final part. So basically, you're already with one foot into the program. All that's left is to pay the balance of a tuition fee, which needs to happen before the start of the program. That's the same for everyone. So that's before the 15th of September this year. When that happens, and when you've arrived in Belgium and you have an address in Belgium, we will also provide you with a letter of admission, which is a document you will need in order to apply for a residence permit. It has all the information needed to apply for that residence permit, which, if you live in Antwerp, we can assist you with. But more information about that you will get in August. And then if everything works out fine, you should be able to come to Belgium and see all of these wonderful sceneries, such as our central station, the museum, and also a famous statue here in Antwerp. Okay, and I think that's all I have to say for now.
Okay, goodbye for now then, and thank you for your attention.
All right, goodbye everyone.